Okay, so my number 13 is Rum Sodomy and The Lash by a band called the Pogues, which most people will be aware of, if only for A Fairy Tale New York that's played every year and has been played every year since its release. I was obviously well aware of that song. I'm not 100% sure when that song was released, but it must have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s, something like that. But I kind of got into them by going on holiday to Spain with my family, and we visited an Irish pub which was called the Dubliner, and there was a guy that came on night after night and did an acoustic set, and he played a lot of Pogue songs, and I got to know what they sounded like. Couldn't really make out the lyrical content because obviously it was in a pub, and I just was kind of making up my own words and kind of singing away with this guy, and I was like, I'm going to have to listen to them. So I got home and bought a Pogues Greatest Hits album as a means of kind of acclimatising myself to kind of their work and what have you. And I remember I got quite a lot of stick from my pals at the time, because for them they were like, what's this fucking old fuddy-duddy band, like, you know, because on the face of things they are an Irish traditional folk band. So, you know, at the time we were listening to bands like Misfits, Rancid, Less Than Jake, and some of the other bands that I've kind of mentioned so far, and they never really took to it, but I kind of continued to listen to them, and I bought some of their other albums. I bought If I Should Fall From Grace From God, Hell's Ditch, and I later went on and bought Rum Sodomy The Lash, and I don't think there's anything particularly innovative about this album, to be honest. Like I said, on the face of things they are pretty much just a folk band, but there's something more than that, and the reason why I included this album as opposed to some of the other albums that I've mentioned was because it contains one of my favourite songs of all time, which is a Pair of Brown Eyes, and there's a video to that, so I think it's maybe one of the kind of better known Pogue songs. This album in itself was released in 1985, and it's about an hour and 3 minutes long. It's got 18 songs on it, and as I said, it's an odd one, because like I said, there's nothing particularly innovative in the album. However, I think the band, I don't use the word instrumental, but I definitely think they've played a big part in maybe the revival of the kind of folk scene at the time. I certainly think that they kind of went on to inspire the likes of Flogging Molly and the Dropkick Murphys. Shane MacGowan, the lead vocalist from the Pogues, went on and sang a song called Good Rats, I believe, the Dropkick Murphys album Sing Loud, Sing Proud.
Alright.
And I would say that they certainly have played a big part in, you know, inspiring these types of bands and the kind of Celtic rock revival with, you know, like the Real Mackenzies and what have you. There's quite a lot of traditional pieces in there in the form of the likes of I'm a Man You Don't Meet Every Day, which is an old song, probably, I'm not great with my history, but it'll be probably a good couple of hundred years old anyway, and it's an old traditional Scottish Irish song. However, in this case, it's sung by a woman, Kate O'Riordan. There's also the Parting Glass in there. Again, it's just another traditional kind of Scottish Irish song. Dirty Old Town, which I think a lot of people will probably be familiar
Dirty
with.
Old Town's
The other Pogue song, isn't it?
Know.
But I think that follows a traditional composition as well. Maybe not. I've got a feeling that was written by Kirsty MacColl's dad.
Alright.
Kirsty MacColl's the woman who sings on Fairy Tale New York, with Shane MacGowan. And although he maybe wrote the lyrics, like I said, I think it does follow a kind of traditional musical composition. There's kind of lowland pipes in it. There's a harmonica, all the sort of traditional instruments that you would expect from a kind of trad folk band. But at the same time, there's also songs like Sally McNann, The Sick Bed of Cuchulainn, and Billy Bones that have this kind of brash punk swagger about them, and I think that's what I kind of tuned into, obviously kind of listening to a lot of the kind of American punk and kind of traditional 70s, 80s punk at the time. I kind of really hooked into that and really enjoyed it. And I suppose it's probably worthwhile saying that Shane MacGowan was part of the Bromley contingent, which is effectively a bunch of groupies that used to follow the Sex Pistols about back in the heyday.
Okay.
And he was in a band called the Nipple Erectors for a little while.
You gotta love punk.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they changed their name to the Nips. So it was somehow more, I don't know,
Commercially appealing.
Commercially appealing. And yeah, I mean, they were actually originally called Pogue Mahone or Pogue Mahoy. I don't know how you pronounce it, but Kiss My Arse. So effectively, they're a band called The Kisses. That's what they're called. But yeah, there's definitely a punk influence there. There's a song that doesn't feature on this album, but it's called Wax's Dargle. I think that was released as part of their debut album, which I'm pretty sure is called Red Roses For You. And it's either Shane MacGowan or Spider Stacy, who's another one of the kind of vocalists in the band, just smashes his head with a metal beer tray during the chorus. So yeah, like I said, although it's kind of a traditional kind of trad band, there's kind of punk elements in it. A lot of kind of shouting and kind of pub band raucousness about it that you can't help but kind of sing along to and join in with.
Cool. It's not Pogues are a band, and another band I've never really gone into, and I think it's that sort of trad folk thing that I'm not really into, but I like the sort of that idea, that more punk attitude. It's just never a band that I was ever really interested in, but I didn't really know they had that kind of aspect to their sound.
And I suppose it's worthwhile saying as well, you can agree or disagree as you like. People see Shane MacGowan, who's obviously got issues with alcohol. I think at this moment in time he's in a wheelchair, like he's confined to a wheelchair. I think so the story goes, or so the kind of newspaper articles are saying he tried a difficult dance move in which he fell and basically broke his pelvis or fractured his pelvis, and has been in a wheelchair ever since, and that's kind of been going back a few years ago now. But I think people take one look at Shane MacGowan, obviously he's got a reputation of being a drinker, and almost kind of turned their nose up to him. But he's a serious wordsmith. I mean, some of the lyrics on this album and other Pogues albums are really moving. Like I said, Pair of Brown Eyes is one of my favourite songs of all time. Like I said, it does just follow a kind of trad folk kind of composition, but the lyrics on it are amazing.
We've taken bets on what the difficult dance move was. I'm going for the worm.
Headspin, maybe. Oof. Headspin. I mean, I've seen him live, and that's a weird thing about Shane MacGowan. Like, I've seen him live. I've seen him twice live, actually. I think it was the Carlin Academy. It's now it was Carlin Academy at the time. It's the O2 Academy now. And I could not understand a fucking word he was saying in between tracks. But as soon as he started singing, he was on point, man.
Yeah.
Like, I remember it was round about the time that he appeared in the Frank Skinner TV show, where Frank Skinner, the comedian, used to have people on. Just an interview kind of show.
Yeah.
And kind of he came on with what looked like a glass of water, and I think Frank Skinner had said to him, you know, what's that? You're not drinking water, are you, Shane? He's like, no, it's one special concoction of white spirits. And he drank a fair amount the nights that I've seen him of just whatever that was, white rum, vodka, who knows what. And I remember seeing a bottle of whiskey sitting up on stage there as well. And at one point he left the stage because Shane MacGowan was fired from the Pogues at one point.
Okay.
And they certainly released one album. They might have released a couple of albums on this kind of hiatus from the band. And interestingly, they got Joe Strummer from the Clash to take his place. So yeah, he left. He left the stage for a little while when they played that material. So I imagine he was getting even more foo backstage. Yeah, and kind of talking about difficult dance moves. I remember he was kind of trying to swing his microphone and just banged himself in the bus with it.
It's tragic.
It is tragic, and you know we're kind of laughing about him here, and you know kind of poking fun at him. But I think with Shane MacGowan, I think he is probably one of these kind of tortured artist types, to be honest, because he's gone on to do a whole host of different things. He was obviously with the Pogues. But he's also had another band called Shane McGowan and the Popes, I think.
Okay.
Is what they're called. And like I said, he's a serious wordsmith. You know, if you kind of sit down and if you can get past, you know, the kind of trad folk sound and kind of concentrate on these lyrics, I think you kind of be pleasantly surprised.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about him.
Remind us of the
Rum Sodomy The Lash.
Rum Sodomy The Lash by the Pogues.
Yes.
Cool.